Hi, everybody. Dan Illman here. I'm really pleased to be working with Timeform US's Craig Milkowski. He's doing double duty this week. Not only is he doing all the figures as usual for Timeform US and his usual handicapping duties for Timeform US and DRF, he's also making the morning line for Belmont. David Aragona gets to take a vacation. He's a pretty lucky guy. Before we look at your line and the Grade 2 John A. Nerud, race number 9 at Belmont Park on Saturday, please remember that the 4th of July sale is ongoing at shop.drf.com. Up to 50% off past performances, picks, clock reports, digital paper, and all the tools you need to make some informed wagering decisions on 4th of July week. Here's the Grade 2 John A. Nerud. There's some good sprinters in here, Craig. Morning line favorite. You made the one Candyman Rocket, and why not? All he's done is win 4 of 5, and he's been a good sprinter throughout his career for Belmont.
Yeah, there were a little bit of questions if he could get it done outside of Florida, but he showed in that run happy that it wasn't an issue for him and ran one of the best races of his career.
And the good news about Candyman Rocket is he's a versatile sort. He can go to the lead. He can sit just off the pace, as he did in his most recent race, the Grade 2 Run Happy. Let's see where he is at the Timeform US pace projector, and we got him close to the pace. Twisted Ride, the 4 is fast, and I think they're coming in here from Parks. I think they're going to be running and gunning. Little Vic, to me, is an enigma wrapped in a riddle because he's a horse that early on in his career showed a ton of early speed. He's gotten more versatile in his last few races, although last time out, they put him on Ascend.
Yeah, this is an interesting pace projector. I agree with the positioning of the horses, but even though there's 3 clumped together, you'll notice there's no fast pace flag. And a lot of that is because none of these horses are really true front runners at this point in their career. They've shown they can be front runners when necessary, but they don't have to be. They've all rated off the pace a little bit. So I do think some jockey tactics are going to play in here.
And for our friends at home that are a bit unfamiliar with the Timeform US pace projector, you'll note the LP flag over the chiclet of the number 2, 3 Technique. That means 3 Technique has the fastest late pace figure. And if this pace does happen to heat up, perhaps that could help 3 Technique's chances. Let's start things off with Candyman Rocket, and we'll do it by watching his last race. This is the Run Happy. It was nice to see him bounce back after he disappointed in the Count Fleet Sprint at Oaklawn 2 starts back. He set a very nice trip off the leaders and puts him away in the stretch.
Yeah, that was a very good effort by him, and I give him an excuse for that race at Oaklawn. That horse Skelly is just in raging form right now. He just didn't have his A game that day, and if you put a line through that, he's done nothing wrong. I do worry a little bit about the inside draw in a one-turn race, but at least at 7 furlongs, Junior Alvarado will have a little bit of time to work out a trip.
I usually like horses cutting back from routes to 7/8 of a mile races, but usually in races where there's some pace. And the question is whether the number 2, 3 Technique, who is expected to be rallying from out of it, gets that sort of situation. Now, he won last time out in a 3rd level allowance at Churchill, going a 1-turn mile. He was game to win it. It's not like there was a fast pace in front of him that day, and he showed some guts and determination to win.
No, some of the fractions are coded in blue that day in Timeform US. He ran a very good speed figure, which fits nicely in here. My big concern with him is he hasn't really been able to put races back to back since early in his career. These wins kind of seem to come out of nowhere, and then he'll go back to running 4th or 5th, beating 5 or 6 or 10 lengths. So he's a little unpredictable for me.
The number 3 is Wayburn. He's been a bit underrated for most of his career. He won the Gotham at 3. He's won the last 2 editions of the Sir Shackleton Stakes. He'll be making his first start for Todd Pletcher. Didn't Quality Road move from Jimmy Jerkins to Todd Pletcher way back when? My memory's getting a little bit fuzzy, but Wayburn last ran in the Westchester, a race where Repo Rocks just absolutely freaked. I don't mind him turning back to 7 furlongs. It's a very good distance for him. What tactics do you think Jose Ortiz is going to use here? Because I think he has enough stalking ability to stay relatively close.
Yeah, I would picture him in 3rd or 4th, maybe just a couple lengths off the lead. He's a horse who I think is going to run a good race. The question is, will it be good enough? I do think his speed figure is a little bit inflated, at least on the Timeform US scale from that last race where Repo Rocks just kind of ran off the screen and blew everybody away. That kind of happens, a little bit of a suck-up number, but it's not like his other races don't make him a competitor.
Twisted Ride is based at Parks, but he ran on the Run Happy. We saw that race last time out, and he was occupied with another horse while Candyman Rocket sort of settled just off the leaders. He did best of the pace horses, finishing second. Candyman Rocket ran him down late. He's going to stretch out to 7. He's done well at 7 in his career. Twisted Ride, I think, is going to be the pace setter in here. I'm not sure he's good enough.
Yeah, if there was one horse I would think could maybe steal this race, it would be him. He ran into his Parks nemesis Baron last time. They kind of dueled it out. He put that one away, but set it up for Candyman Rocket, as you said. But yeah, I'm not quite sure he's good enough, because I can see a trip where, yes, he makes the lead, but he's going to get hounded all the way.
I've been a huge fan of Little Vic for most of his career, and as he's gotten older, as I mentioned earlier, he's shown more tactical ability and the ability to rate. He got a perfect trip when he won the City of Laurel, going 7/8 of a mile, sitting off the pace, shooting through along the inside. A great trip winning the Tom Fool 2 starts back, just tracking the pace on the outside and rolling by. Were you surprised how aggressive they got with this horse last time out in the Carter? I mean, they pushed the pace hard. The race came back solid with a couple of next out winners, and that race just went to closers.
That race was one of the bigger meltdowns that you're ever going to see on Timeform US. It was one where we actually had to break the figure out, because it was just way too fast. And I think a large part of that was because of just how crazy fast the pace was. I think maybe the jockey got a little carried away when he broke so well that day. He's back, but he's ridden this horse before. He gets a good outside post, and I would think he's probably learned his lesson from that day and would probably rate in the 2 path, maybe just a length or so off.
Taking a look at the replay for this Sheriff Bianco, we'll see that he's down towards the inside, in behind horses turning for home, but he is going to get to the outside eventually in mid-stretch, and then he'll stay on to only be beaten a length. All in all, it was a good performance. Now, he's going to be stepping up in class while turning back in distance. He might need a little bit of pace and race luck against this tougher competition.
Yeah, he's been very consistent. His Timeform US speed figures are within a few points for the last several starts. He always shows up. My concern with him is he's probably going to be rating in the mid-pack. He's going to be there with some other horses with similar running styles, and I think those others are probably just a little bit better than he is.
Whether you think the number 7 Synthesis is good enough to win this race or not, I think it's fair to take his last race with several grains of salt. It was the Grade 2 True North. He was likely overmatched to begin with against Champion Elite Power, and it didn't help when he checked out of there at the half-mile pole. His prior race was okay, but he was also being dangled for an $80,000 tag. He's a likable horse. I don't mind him at 7 furlongs. I think it's a good distance for him. I think he's in a little too tough.
Yeah, he's a bit of an enigma, because his last 2 races, I'm not sure what to make of him. 2 back, he popped that huge figure in following C's return from a lengthy layoff that day. Gunnett's come back to win in his first dirt race since that one. So I think that race was legitimate. And then when you see the last race with Elite Power, the Eclipse winner, I think it's safe to put a line through that one. So you're going to need some faith that he can run to that race 2 back. And that one kind of came out of nowhere. But if you believe it, you're going to get paid for it.
15-1 on Craig's morning line. Manny Franco takes them out for David Jacobson, who seems to be winning everything over the last 3 months or so. Let's take a look at our top picks for the John A. Nerud. You're going with Little Vic. He got cooked on that pace last time out. He might not have to work as hard to get forward here, and he might actually be a pretty decent price, because this is a wide open race.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. I agree that last race, I think it just was way too tough to be up that close to the lead. Not only was he up closer in that fast pace, he was wide around the turn. So I think he ran a lot better than it looks, and his Timeform US speed figure that day was actually right in line with his last couple, where the running line looks better. So I think this might be one of the times where he's going to offer a little bit of value.
I like Wayburn cutting back to 7/8. He ran okay in the Westchester. He was no match for Repo Rocks, who ran one of the fastest Buyer speed figures of the year. He was pretty game to just miss second behind Zandon, who came back to acquit himself pretty well against the very, very good Cody's Wish in the Metropolitan Mile. Be sure to listen to Craig and David's podcast twice a week. Watch all their stakes previews coming up for Saratoga, Del Mar, and beyond. This is the John A. Nerud. Craig's going Little Vic. I'm going Wayburn. Good luck.